One more lecture on lists. This is going to be on two-dimensional lists. So we have a two-dimensional list of numbers. You could also call a two-dimensional list a matrix. So we have a matrix of numbers. Our first row is even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Our second row is odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And then our third is list of prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. So let's access a few of these by name or by index. So let's print numbers, and we'll print the number 4. So that's going to be sub 0. Whoops. Sub 1. Because we're doing the first row, this is our sub 0, and then here is the sub 1 within it. So let's, off to the side here, I'm going to write the output in a comment, and let's do this again. Print numbers sub 2, I keep doing that, sub 4. So, sub 2, sub 4. Sub 2 is going to be our third row, so it's going to be our prime numbers. Sub 4 is going to be our fifth column. So, the output of this print is 11. And I also want to call attention to the fact that we do have some repetition in here. And that is perfectly fine. We could, if we wanted to, have repetition inside each of these sublists. So you could do 2, 2, 4, 4, 6, 6, 8, 8, 10, 10, and it would be perfectly acceptable. So we'll do one more. Print, we'll do a slice within one of our subscripts. So, numbers, sub, we'll say sub 1, and then inside of sub 1, that being our odd numbers, we're going to print sub 1 to 3. And this is going to give us, so if we look at sub 1 to 3, here's sub 1, and then sub 3 is here. Of course, the 7 will be excluded, so what we'll get instead is 3, 5. All right, now let's see these in use. Whoops. Go back to our terminal. And you could see it prints, when we have a slice of a list, it prints as a list in and of itself. And this is the main thing that changes when you go from a one-dimensional list to a two-dimensional list, is you have two subscripts to reference. So what we're going to do now is we're going to print this out using row and column variables inside of for loops. So what we're going to say for the for loop, let's say loop through matrix. And what we're going to say here is for row in numbers. So we establish our row. We establish our distance from the top. And down here, we establish our column. For column, or you could just say col, C-O-L. We'll say column in row. And so now we have a row and column value. And let's see if I have made something that makes sense here. What we actually want to do here is we will print column, and that will give us our exact value. So let's just print column and end with a space. So by printing column in this case, this is turning out to not be as readable as I would have hoped. But this should give you an idea of how we index things in a two-dimensional list. It's row first, then column. So this should print everything in order from top to bottom, left to right. Okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. So it did work. It's just our naming isn't as good as it probably could be. Using row and column, it may be better to use these as your index values. So we'll do index values, and then we'll do we'll change this up a little bit. So let's remove this print call, and we'll redo that. So what we're going to do is we're going to enumerate. So what we're going to say here is row list in enumerate numbers. And then we're going to say column number in enumerate row. This is going to be the better way to do this, I believe. So we have a row index that refers to a list in numbers, and then we have a column index that refers to an individual number within our row. And now we're going to use subscript notation to print our numbers. So print numbers sub row sub column, and again we're going to end with a space. End equals space. And again, this is just the kind of process you can expect when you're trying to refine your code. So let's try this. Enumerate row. This doesn't work. Int object is not iterable. I goofed. Oh. List. We need to use list instead of row because we want to use the object here. So let's go through that again with the corrected code. We have a row index that refers to a list in numbers. Then we have a column index that refers to a number in list. And then we print numbers, sub-row, sub-column, and that's going to be the same thing that we saw before. Let's make sure I'm right. And there we are, the same thing as before. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. This is a bit complicated, but your code is going to get complicated with time if you want this kind of precision. Or you could change this and say index row column equals number. You can use all the variables that you have at your disposal. Lots of different ways to go about this. I encourage you, again, to practice, look over things, really think about what you're writing, and give different approaches a try. So, that is going to do us for lists. When we come back, we're going to talk about dictionaries. And this is going to be the final part of this lecture. This one's gone on a bit long, but we're going to cover dictionaries all in one lecture. I'm going to talk about how to access keys, how to access values, how to access both, how to make changes, add new keys, and so on and so forth. So, stick around for that.